Good evening, my lovelies, and welcome. I'm Lady McCreepster. This evening, we have two tales of terror, both from the Creepypasta wiki. So let's dive straight into the first tale, shall we? Come now, my dears. Lean in closer, and we'll begin. Around mid-October, my television started to make a noise. Not all the time, just when it was set to a specific channel. The noise it made caught my attention. The channel appeared one day with some weird code in the corner. I figured it was a glitch due to it just being made available. Most of the time, it was just static, and since my TV, being quite old, can hardly pick up the decent channels, it was no surprise to me that this new channel would cut in and out like it did. I didn't have any sort of television provider. I use an antenna. I had been meaning to get one for a long time, but I hardly watch TV anyway, and I didn't feel like paying the outlandish costs. In the beginning, the new channel didn't play anything I was familiar with. I couldn't make out most of the shows because the signal was sporadic. But when the waves made it through, it would show images of people. I think they were stills. I never saw them move. These people would be shown one at a time, standing in blank space. I figured that whatever show was playing had to do with strange diseases. All of the people that were displayed had these grotesque-looking growths on them. Some looked like simple boils. Others, I guess the more developed stages, had their skin almost peeled back from their muscles. It would just be hanging there. I never caught a glimpse of any of the people's faces, but I assumed that they were just as bizarre-looking as their bodies. The noise that the channel made is hard to describe. It was like you had the volume on your speakers turned up too high, that background buzz. I'd check my volume whenever I flipped to it, and it was fine, so I blamed the signal. When nothing good was on the other few channels I can pick up, I flipped to the new one, and sure enough, the noise was there. Whatever the show was, it was interesting enough to wade through the static to try and make out what was happening. After a couple of weeks, the people in the images started getting closer to the screen. They'd be more detailed, and they seemed to be decomposing further. They would lose more and more of their skin as they crept forward. After a while, it looked like they were coming towards me. They started to discolor. It was like the air was getting to them. The noise started getting louder as well and began to cross over into other channels I could pick up. So did the images. So I stopped watching it for a while. Not too long after, out of curiosity, I flipped on my TV and turned to the channel, but it wasn't there. I went through the available channels 3 or 4 times, and it was nowhere to be found. The noise had stopped too. A few days ago, I woke up in the middle of the night. All I could hear was the noise. I went into my living room, and sure enough, my TV was on. And up in the corner was that code. The images, though, were right up against the screen, like they were pressing on it. They were flickering between one another. I ran over and turned it off. I stood there for a while, making sure everything was okay. Eventually, I calmed down enough to go back to bed. The channel hasn't been on since. My TV is fine. All the old channels work. Lately, though, out of the corner of my eye, I can see the people. They're just as decayed as when they were on the screen, but one thing's different. They move now. I can hear the noise too. And it's getting louder. And now for our second tale, by Snake Tongue, from the Creepypasta Wiki. Every night at 3:21 a.m., a man hangs himself at the foot of my bed. I don't know who he is or what he is doing in my house, and it's scaring the hell out of me. I can't sleep, and I don't know how to deal with this problem. No matter what I try, the man is always there every night. I wake up and see him standing on my bedpost with a noose around his neck. As soon as I scream, he jumps backwards and hangs there. Then at 3:22 a.m., his body disappears. I need you to help me. Just sleep in my room for one night. I'm positive he won't appear if I have someone with me. I knew my friend and neighbor Lewis could not possibly be telling the truth. This was only a fabrication of his own mind. I sent him out of my house with a couple of recommendations for good therapists in our area. A week later, I was shocked to learn that Lewis had committed suicide by means of hanging himself at the foot of his bed. I attended his funeral and paid my respects to his family before leaving with regret. Perhaps I should have helped him with his silly task, even if it was ridiculous. It might have stopped him from killing himself. It took a long while for me to fall asleep that night, and when I did, I was awakened shortly afterward by a noise in my bedroom. I opened my eyes blarily, and the first thing I saw was my digital clock, which read 3:21 a.m. I swiveled my head around, and Lewis was standing over me on the bedpost with a noose around his neck. I let out a scream of terror before he lets himself fall backwards, and he hangs there for a full minute, for the first of many times to come. Thank you for joining me this evening, my dears. As per usual, if you enjoyed this tale and are watching on YouTube, be sure to like this video and leave a comment below, as this helps others find this channel as well. If you're listening on the podcast, do give this podcast a review and share it with someone who you think would appreciate it. And before we say goodbye this evening, my dears, I want to thank my dark family on Patreon for their ever-loyal support. Family members such as Dawn Fritzwater, Oliver Dace, L. Andrew Augustus, Stephen Aguilera, Tay the Fluth, Bill Thornsley, Laura Seta-Penry, and everyone else listed in the description below. If you too would like to support this channel and podcast, go to patreon.com/LadyMcCreepster for more information. And now, my dears, it is time for me to go. Till next time, though, sweet dreams.